Welcome to the Page Turner Adventures Creative Literacy Program, filled with crafts and activities that get kids excited about books and reading. So we are going to make some little travel trunks, and these are really fun to make. They're easy, they're simple, they're cheap. And I have done this project with kids from 6 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. They all enjoy it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just go over the materials. Now there are some materials that you absolutely have to have for this project, and there are some that you can have or not if you want to just use for decoration. So we'll go over the things that you need. First, you need a box. Now the box that I used for this one is a tea box, a little Celestial Seasonings tea box. I use the kind that has a little flap here. I'm going to put the flap over the top. That works best instead of the kind that, you know, that you'd split on the top. But if you have that, no big deal. Now, if you don't even have this kind of a box, also not a problem, because you can use really any type of box for this project. So if you don't have a lot of this kind, look around, see what you have. Pull it out of the trash. We like to recycle. This is another kind of tea box that's just a different shape and style that would work really well. It doesn't need to be cardboard though. You know, how many of these plastic things do we all have around? These work really well. This is like a plastic fruit container. Look at the size of that one. And this is a blueberry container. These also work really well. Now, I would recommend if you do this that you want to probably use this one with slightly older kids because it's a little bit more detailed because there's some ridges and things like that. But look around, see what you have, all different types of boxes. Also, you can use little, you can also use little Altoid tins. We're going to talk about this with the teens, but I'll show it to you now. This is a little Altoid tin, covered the same way, the same technique that I'm going to show you in a second, and we made a little suitcase out of it. You can use the small tins or round tins, so those are also a lot of fun. All right, so the materials, again, you need the box, you need masking tape, any kind of masking tape, doesn't matter. I used a slightly wider kind, you know, get it at the dollar store, inexpensive material, and it goes really far. And you need shoe polish. You do not want to use the liquid shoe polish. It's this kind that comes in a tin. And to make this kind of a box, I use the brown shoe polish. Although you can also use black, but the brown makes it look like leather. You also need some paper towels. So those are the things that you absolutely have to have for this project. But some other things that you might want to use are some markers to help decorate, little pieces of Velcro to hold your box closed. I have some buttons to decorate it with, these little metal fastener brads you can use to decorate, and then maybe a little bit of black paint if you want to paint on the stripes, which we'll do at the end. So all of those things, nice touch if you want to add them, or use your imagination and decorate it however you want to decorate it. So now we have our supplies, let's begin. Okay, so the first step to make the trunk is to take your box, and we're going to cover this box with the masking tape. Now, I will say you don't have to do this, but I am going to cut off these little flaps because they're just going to kind of get in the way. So I'm going to take a pair of scissors and cut off those flaps. You don't have to be super precise about it because we're going to cover that with masking tape. And if you're doing this part with young kids, you would want to do that for them, or leave the flaps, not a big deal. Okay, so now I have my little trunk, and I'm going to cover it with the masking tape. And you're going to do probably 2 layers because the first layer you're going to see the colors of the box through, and you don't really want to see that. So I'm going to do 2 layers. So the first layer I can just put on big strips. And again, it doesn't need to be super precise. You can cover it like that. If it goes over, it's fine. And this is what I love about masking tape, and this is why it works really well for a really wide age range, because unlike duct tape, a lot of us like to do duct tape projects, which are fun, but duct tape can get hard to work with. And the masking tape, it rips easily. It doesn't stick back on itself quite so much. So I'm just gonna cover this. Now, one thing you wanna make sure you do is keep the box open as you're doing this so you don't tape it closed, which I've done. that. Now, when you're doing this first layer, it's easier to just do big strips, but you don't have to. So I'm gonna cover it like this because eventually we are just gonna do little strips, so it's fine. That's also why I like this project, because you don't have to be all exact and precise. I don't like being precise. I like to just sort of slap things on and not measure things, so this is a fun project. Oops, careful. Don't tape it closed. Okay, so I pretty much have that first layer, still a couple little edges showing, but that's okay. Now, you can tape the inside. I started to tape the inside of this one. I taped the top cover, and then I got lazy and didn't tape the inside. It's up to you if you want to tape the inside, but you don't have to. So I think I'm just gonna leave that for now, and maybe on the second layer I'll put a little bit of a tape inside. So that's the first layer. Now I'm just gonna do one more layer on top. Now for this layer, I do wanna just cover it with little pieces, because that is going to give you this kind of old leathery look when you apply the shoe polish, which is going to be our next step. So you wanna apply little pieces, just willy-nilly. Just rip them off, stick them on. If it gets a little rough, just kind of push it down. And this is where I can cover up any little spots that I see that I didn't quite cover before. And I think I will add some pieces on the inside. So a lot of the projects that we're going to do really work well for wide age ranges. You know, this one, little kids just sort of like slapping the tape on. It's not going to be a perfect, beautiful thing, but it's fun to play with the tape. And older kids will sit for hours being super precise and adding it in. I think I'm done with that first step. It's covered in tape. You don't really see too much color showing through, and I have my little pieces. So we're ready for step 2. Step 2 is the shoe polish. You're going to take your shoe polish, open the shoe polish, take a paper towel. And again, this is where if you have younger kids, it can get a little messy if it gets on their clothes, although it's really not as messy as paint, but it can stain clothes, so be careful. You're going to take your paper towel and just rub it in the shoe polish. Get some shoe polish on there. And now I'm just going to rub it into the tape. And you can see it kind of gives it that look of old leather. So here we go. Getting a little on my hands, just really get a lot of shoe polish on there. And you can see how the little pieces of tape are working. It's really kind of getting into those little edges, and it gives it that neat look. And the shoe polish is also inexpensive, and it will go really, really far. And the thing with the shoe polish is it dries pretty quickly. It's almost drying as I'm doing it. So it's not like paint. You're not really worrying about it being soaking wet. After you do one layer, you can add another layer on if you want a slightly darker color, but you don't have to. So you can just leave it like that. That's one layer, one coat of the shoe polish. This one has a little bit more on it. It gives it a slightly darker, richer look. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more to this one just to give it a little bit more of a leathery look. Okay, so here is the basic box, and really it's pretty much dry enough now to even start decorating it. So it's up to you. One thing I like to do is to give it the look of, you know, that old luggage with these little travel stickers, and you can just use your masking tape again. I'm just going to take some Sharpie markers and I'm going to draw some little travel stickers. You can also write directly on the box, and you can write on the box before you put the shoe polish on or after. It gives you some interesting looks, so I think we'll try that as well. All right, so next step is going to be attaching some hardware. So I'm going to put some little metal brads on the sides. And if you're working with younger kids, you're definitely going to want to do this with them or for them, because it can be a little bit of a challenge to poke these through. You can also use the scissors to make a hole first. Now you could do the same thing with a little brad on the front, but I'm going to put a button. But before I do the button, I'm going to put a little bit of Velcro so I can Velcro my box closed. Okay, so we are almost done with our little trunks. The next step is to add on these little black straps. You don't have to, but I like the look. I think it really makes it look like a trunk. Now there's different ways you can do it. You can do it with a marker, you can just do some masking tape and color that black, or you can just paint the stripes right on the box, which is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna use some black acrylic paint, and I am going to just paint on some stripes. One final last step. I do want to add a little button on the front to just kind of be a little latch on the front, finish the whole thing off. Now, you can just use regular glue, or you could use some of these little brads again, but the regular glue, Elmer's glue, is going to take a while to dry, and it's a little hard to put it in that spot. So I am going to use some hot glue. So, you know, if you're going to do this with kids, either you do it for them or just use regular glue or the brads or nothing. It's not necessary. And there we have it, a little trunk made out of a tea box and some masking tape and some shoe polish. And ready to go, ready for travel. You can put all kinds of little treasures inside, close it up, and you have a trunk. For more great crafts and activities, visit our blog at pageturneradventures.com.